I had a few spots where I had some lines, and that was at the very top. I think my Galvo is off. I'm gonna check my Galvos and make sure they're not just a hair loose. Well, my tray didn't rise up on the left side, which is the right side from the back here. I took the stepper threaded rod and brought it down. As you can see from here on the right side, when you're facing it, the threaded rod goes up through here and then through the bottom of the hat to the coupler, which is down here. I can't really get my finger down there. And then there's a Allen bolt that tightens that coupler down. And this side's been fine, but this second stepper here, this is the second time the coupler has slipped loose. And I just thread this back down through here. I mean, you can sort of get your hand in there and start to turn it down so you can get at it. What I'm hoping to do is to put a little bit of this aluminum tape on there just to give it just a hair's thickness more, because my coupler, if I can slide it around here, has a bigger gap. You can see that gap there than the other side, and no matter how tight I make that thing, the thing just spins in there. I can get maybe 5 jobs, and next thing I know, the bed doesn't raise or lower anymore. So I'm hoping that by putting a little bit of tape, it'll work. It's a huge gamble, because if the tape slides off, like underneath that coupler is a bearing, and if it doesn't fit through the bearing just right, it'll catch in the bearing and I'll have to take it all apart so I can get that sticky aluminum tape out of there. So we'll see. I'm going to try to put it right on the end, and hopefully that won't get in the bearing at all, but we'll see. This could be a total loss right here. Anyway, that's the latest repair that I've had to do on this thing. Alright, I got it in. I cut a little strip that's probably about 5/8 inch long by 3/16 of an inch thick, and then wrapped it around the top of the shaft. There was that tapered shaft part there. I put it right at the top so that 3/16 inch doesn't go down into the bearing area of it. And I threaded it back up, put it into here, and what I can do now is I can spin the threaded rod from underneath with my other hand, hold it with this one, and just make sure that it doesn't slip loose on the inside. And right now it can hold a lot of stress, so I'm thinking I got it. But the true test will be to do another set of prints and see if it wiggles loose again. I'm not sure why it goes loose after a little while. Maybe it just wiggles its way out after spinning a lot, but I think it's good. It can really hold a lot of force. Like, I'm sitting here spinning this thing and then holding the top at the same time, and it doesn't want to separate. So I think that's the best I can do. I tried to use like a mirror, so I have a little mirror like this, and I was trying to put it in here and then look to see if I could make sure that that bushing and everything doesn't get gummed up, but it's just really hard to see in there. Like, even with a light, you really don't get to see much. So yeah, I'll fire it up, see if it holds on. The next thing I'm going to work on is, so this is the back side of the kit. We have 2 limit switches, an upper and a lower, and that goes for both beds. And I ran my longest job, which was 1040 layers. Technically it's supposed to be able to go up to 1100, but it just didn't get that far because it emptied or it didn't empty, but it lowered this one all the way down so that it could fill it with the printed parts. But on this side it would raise up, and eventually it got to the upper limit switch, hit that, and then that just sends a signal to the computer to say, hey, there's no more powder to put into the next thing. So it killed it at 1040. I'm going to try to basically lower these ones as much as possible. so that I can pack in just a few more millimeters of powder. There's a little bit of room on the slot. I just filled it with glue before that because I didn't want the powder to get out, but I'm going to try to work all that glue out and then slide that down because I do have a bit of room, but the good people at 3D Chimera said be careful because if this comes down and hits the bottom and doesn't let the limit switch, you know, accept that signal, then it's going to assume that it has to keep going further down and you'll just have a major crisis on your hands. So I'm going to move this down by also lowering this and then get it to the lowest possible point I can get it without this thing bottoming out. So you basically just spin this thing up or down, and as you can see this is moving up and down. I think. The threads are pretty small, so it takes a while for it to move. Alright, move it down. And I don't want it to touch the bottom. So I'm pretty close right there. Like I feel resistance there, so I'm going to bring it back up just a hair. And that gives me the height I need to put this at. So this needs to be stopped. And I can put my bolts in and that will be the lowest it can go. It's definitely not at the lowest point of the slot, so I'm not getting a lot out of this. Alright, both of them are done. If I spin this thing, you can hear it click. And I still got space in between, maybe about a 1/16 of an inch. And go back up. Same on this side. So there's up and here's down. Clicked and still got space. Fired up the machine. I'm gonna go down a little bit and we'll see what happens. Alright, that's a good sign. I'm going to try the other side. Good. Alright. Well, I think that's the maximum. It's not that great. There's still quite a bit of slot there. On this side too. I covered it up with glue because I don't want powder flowing back there. But yeah. That's the maximum I'm going to be able to get. Maybe got me another millimeter, maybe two. And that will get me probably around 1,060 layers. And that would be the maximum I could get out of this bed. So this is the second time my Galvos have loosened up. I actually have taken off the cover again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this thing as close as possible to where it needs to be. And then I'm going to tighten it down, I don't want to say really tight, but a lot more snugly than I usually do. And I just want to show you what happens if you don't actually snug them up. Just watch the calibration, if I can do this here. And you'll see how they sort of wiggle around. Yeah, see how it's moving? Maybe you didn't see it, but the Galvos spin around because it just vibrates, and that makes your prints, like each layer is slightly off, or the hatch on the inside won't actually match the hatch on the or match the outline, and then you get these weird patterns on the print. Like, I don't know if I have any here. Like this one kind of shows it. Like there's one line here. This was near the top of my print. So it seems to affect things more on the top. And you can see the outline isn't connected with the geometry, so it leaves these little hairs on there. So I'm hoping that by snugging up my Galvos finally for good and getting them exactly on the center, I'll be able to make sure that they won't bump out again. It's just a really hard thing. Like I said, it's the second time I've done this, and you kind of have to have it a little bit loose because you have to be able to adjust it. When you adjust these things, you want to touch them by the drum part of it, and then you turn it like that. don't grab it by the actual mirror. Anyway, I'm gonna fiddle with this a little bit more and see if I can get it to be just on target. Alright, I tightened everything down, and when I use my show on kit, it's pretty spot on. I still have like shadows on the edges, but that's kind of understandable. You really can't print that far anyway, but it looks good. It's not meandering on me. It looks nice and solid. Like, it's hard to tell from the video because it's sort of doing this weird strobing effect, but in real life it's holding firm on those lines, and that's kind of what I want. I don't want to see any movement. Like, if it's moving, you'll see it. It'll be very subtle. It'll be kind of like it's sort of skipping from one side to the other side. Like, you'll see the laser line will move a little bit to the other side on one strobe, and then the other one will be on the other side. But right now, it's sort of staying on all the same sides. I guess we really won't know for sure. Like, you can kind of see it actually doing it right now, but I think there's not much I can do about it here. See, it's kind of a little bit on the left side, in the middle of that line there, and then it moves to the right a little bit. Yeah, see, like, just a little bit on the left every once in a while. But that's like a fraction of a millimeter. I mean, a fraction of a fraction. My lines were shifting as much as a ½ millimeter. I could see it when it was printing. I had a hatch mismatch issue. So hopefully this is the end of my hatch issues.